The cargo bay of the transport ship Horizon Ark was usually filled with containers, magnetic platforms, and the smell of machine oil. No one liked this place. Too dark, too empty, too much like the mouth of a giant metal beast. But today, the bay had become a temporary home for a small Nox cub named Lur. His clan had been evacuated after a pirate attack, and the only safe place during transit was the cargo bay. For Noxes, cave-dwelling beings, dark spaces were normally considered comfortable. But Lur trembled, clutching the edge of a metal crate with his tiny claws, his dark eyes shining with fear. He was only a cub, too young to understand that his family would never return. And every sound, the creak of the hull, the engine hum, the vibration of gravity stabilizers, seemed like a threat. Standing over him was a human woman, Mechanic Sarah Walker, short, strong, with hair pulled back and hands marked with burns and machine grease. She knew that children, of any species, feared not the darkness itself, but the possibility of what might be hiding within it. "Hey, little guy," Sarah said gently, crouching beside him. "I know this place is pretty awful, but it's safe, I promise." Lur shook his head, hissing. "Dark alive, it whispers, it hides, it walks around." Sarah sighed. Yes, she knew that fear well. She herself had hated the dark as a child, until her father covered her room with glow-in-the-dark star stickers. She remembered fearing the shadow under her bed until he showed her that she could fill it with light. And now before her stood a trembling, lost alien cub who needed exactly the same thing. "Listen," she said, rising to her feet. "Do you want me to show you something? Something that makes the dark beautiful?" Lur peeked out from behind the crate. "Bo Typhel." In his language, that word was used only for precious minerals. He clearly didn't believe darkness could contain anything like that. Sarah grinned and clapped her hands. "Stay right here, I'll be back in a minute." She slipped out of the cargo bay, leaving Lur alone. But for the first time in cycles, fear didn't crush his chest. He waited, because the human had promised to return. And humans, he had heard from adult Noxes, were known to keep their word, even in the strangest situations. A few minutes later, Sarah returned with a toolbox and a bag that jingled softly. "All right, buddy," she said, "time to make some magic." She spread several portable projectors across the floor, small round devices normally used to scan hull damage. But with a little adjustment, they could project any grid, map, or pattern. Sarah connected them to her tablet, tapping across the screen. "When I was little, I was terrified of the dark, really terrified. Think that makes me weak." Lur shook his head. Among Noxes, fear was natural. "Exactly," Sarah said with a smirk. "But my dad, he built me a sky full of stars, right in my room, and after that the dark wasn't so scary anymore." She entered a command and hit a button. The cargo bay exploded with light. Hundreds of points flared across the ceiling, stars, cold and multicolored. Vast nebulas blossomed across the walls, washing over the metal beams with soft radiance. Faint comet trails traced across the floor, shimmering like dust. It wasn't just light. It was a night sky stolen from the other side of the galaxy. Lur's jaw fell open. "Stars," he whispered, "inside the cave." Sarah sat next to him. "This is your cave now, little one, and we're going to make it a place where you don't have to be afraid." Lur took a trembling step forward, then another, then another. The stars were reflected in his eyes, as though a tiny galaxy had been born inside them. "They protect?" he asked softly. "Not exactly," Sarah chuckled, "but they make the dark not empty, you see." He nodded. He understood. An hour passed, and Lur was still packing around the bay, freezing occasionally to try catching the glowing points with his paws. Sometimes he emitted a soft whistle, the sound Noxes made when they felt safe. Sarah sat on a crate watching him. "You know," she said, "you're braver than a lot of adults. You've lost so much, and you're still trying to understand the world. Lur stopped thinking hard, then turned his head. Human Sarah, are you brave too? She shrugged. Maybe, but you know what makes us brave? This. She tapped the projector with her knuckle. We learned how to make light where there wasn't any before. The cub stared at her for a long time, then slowly approached and touched her hand with his tiny clawed paw. I want to learn like you, he said quietly. I want to make the dark beautiful. Sarah smiled as warmly as she could. And you will, I promise. When the ship's captain came to inspect the bay, he found a remarkable scene. A small Nox cub sleeping curled up on soft padding, surrounded by a vast panorama of stars, as though the ship was looking into 1,000 directions at once. Sarah was sitting nearby, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, watching over him. Interesting choice, the captain said, turning a cargo bay into a planetarium. Sarah stood and stretched. Sometimes safety isn't just doors and shields, Captain. Sometimes it's what makes the world a little less scary. The captain glanced at the sleeping cub. Humans are remarkable beings, Sarah, not as strong as Noxes, not as resilient as Rillians, but you can, he paused, searching for the word. Tame the dark, she suggested. He chuckled. Exactly. The night passed quietly. In the morning Lur woke up, stretched, and saw the glowing star maps. He smiled wide, Nox style, which involved lifting his upper fangs, and ran to Sarah. I'm not scared anymore, he declared. The dark is beautiful. Sarah ruffled his head gently. See, all you needed was for someone to show you the light. Later, telling other Noxes about his journey, Lur would always say, humans aren't the strongest, not the fastest, but they can make light, even in places that were only darkness before. He would say it proudly, as if it were the greatest discovery of his life. And they would believe him, because no one conquered fear the way humans did.